Welcome back. We continue right here on the Borders and Borders hotline of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. You see the number, give us a call. New England, always very well coached. They seem to take away big things. You didn't hear too much about Aaron Donald tonight, which was surprising. I thought the Rams, even though eventually they did get to Tom Brady, first time in 100 dropbacks that he was sacked tonight, not much of a difference there. It was just one of those games that they waited for their opportunity. When they got it, they jumped up and took it, and the Rams could do nothing about it. So that's why they're the champs. That's why they're the best coach team. They have tremendous players and they're not necessarily household names, aside from Brady and Gronk maybe. Edelman's the kind of guy who's just so productive. Every time you need a third down conversion, he gets it. He runs smart routes. He says the right things. He does everything you want, and he continues to make plays. And that's what they're all about, and they just continue to do it. So that's number 6 to tie the Steelers, which will be interesting. And I'd wonder who would New England open up with next year. In Foxborough, because the Steelers have to go there at some point. Interesting, because that would be the 2 teams with 6 Lombardis. If that's what the NFL wanted, I'm sure the Steelers would not want to start there. I wouldn't, but you never know. 412-575-2600. Let's go to a whole bunch of calls out here. People want to talk. Jim in Pittsburgh. What's up, Jim? How are you?
Hey, Bob. I'd like to make 2 points. First of all, let's keep in mind that the Patriots playing the worst division in all of sports anywhere.
But they win it every single year.
Yeah, well, when you're playing the Bills, Dolphins, and Jets every year, you should.
Yeah, I agree.
Secondly,
but not everybody does, and the Steelers have had their share of patsies that they've lost to, and that's been a problem.
But secondly, I'd like to, they've won 6 over 17 years. If they show the consistency or at least competitiveness or excellence that the Steelers have for over 50 years, then I'll be impressed.
No, I agree. I think generationally, if you're looking to look at decades of sustained success, the Steelers would be number 1 on my list. But if you're looking for the last 17 years, I don't know that you can make a better case that this is a dynasty. And it started back with that first one. They've been there 9 times. That's 50% of the time over the last almost 2 decades just to get there, and they've won 6 out of 9. That's pretty impressive, you have to admit. Even though there's an asterisk by a lot of it, and I know people want to bring that up, and that's fine. It's part of that legacy, but it's still sustained success.
But New England, I'll tell you, before 2001, they were a joke, and most Patriot fans, quote-unquote fans, they couldn't name 5 Patriot players before 2001.
That's what the turnaround meant, and that's what when Brady and Belichick got together and what they've done. Thanks, man. Appreciate the call. I'm not going to deny them their space when it comes to excellence, because it's there. You can argue all you want about all the cheating and whatever else you want to say, but they have done it over a course of time. And like I said, 50% of the time over nearly 2 decades worth of work just to get to the Super Bowl. It's hard to do that. And they're 6-3 in those games. Line 3, we go. Pete in Squirrel Hill. What's up, Pete?
Bob, how are you tonight?
Good. What's up?
Hey, Bob, let's set the record straight for all the viewing audience out there. The Steelers are a charter member of the NFL in 1933. They've won 6 titles in the 86 years of existence. Football did not start in the 70s. If they had won titles in the 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, Bob, they would count them. With that in mind, the Packers have 13 world championships and the second most players in the Canton Hall of Fame behind the Bears. That's the bottom line. Everybody
is again, this whole thing, we can bring this stuff up all the time, and I don't understand why we do it. I mean, that's what it is, sure. But all I've said is that the last 17 years have been, if you want to use the word dynastic, that's exactly what would apply. I don't know how else you do it. And just be fair with it. That's what it is. They've been that good. Over the course of time, yeah, their history was awful before then, just as the Steelers was before they, brought in Chuck Noll and they went to work on that draft of the 1970s. But the Steelers have won a lot of division titles, too. It's not just been championships, and I know that's how people keep scoring the very end, but there's a lot of other years where they've won divisions. Let's go to Mike in Bethel Park. What's up, Mike? How are you?
Hey, Bob, I'm going to keep it quick. I hope the Steelers can start learning team instead of me, like the Patriots exemplify. A guy goes down, someone else comes in, and I just hope we can start thinking more team this year, Bob.
Hey, it's a good point. I mean, you listen to those guys, that you don't ever hear one thing, of wild comments coming out of any of those players. I mean, they just do what they have to do, and that is something that leads to winning. I don't think there's any doubt, and the two are connected. So, the Steelers, and speaking of that, there's a report today by Adam Schefter, in case some of you did not see it, that the Steelers are still weighing their options with Le'Veon Bell, and they may decide to transition tag after 2 years of franchise tag. Now, that's kind of uncharted territory for this league to see that happen after one guy decides to sit out for an entire season. And then there will be a battle between the NFLPA and the league about how much should a transition tag be third year in a row after a guy decides to skip an entire year and forfeit $14.5 million. The Steelers are going to want it to be lower. The Players Association want it to be higher. So this thing is all going into uncharted territory, as I see. I don't think they want him back. I think they're trying to protect their interests. We'll see, though. This is going to be a very unusual offseason, certainly, with regard to Antonio Brown, who was, I don't know how to describe his comments over the last couple of days down in Atlanta. Line 2 we go. Jim in Castle Shannon. What's up, Jim?
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Oh, you know, one of those nights.
2 questions. If the Steelers would have Belichick for a coach, they'd probably go to the Super Bowl almost every year. And number 2, the Penguins, Murray's not been playing good the last 3 games. He's been giving up a lot of goals.
I wouldn't say 3 is a lot. I mean, there was one last night that I thought he should have stopped. I'm not concerned about Matt Murray at this point. He coming back from his injury, he was terrific over an 11-game span where he had one of the lowest goals against and best save percentages in that span. So it's a long year.
He gave up 6 goals against New Jersey.
I realize that.
The worst team in the league.
All right. It's one game. We'll see. Bottom line is they're tied for second with the Capitals. Same exact record, 4 points behind the Islanders. The Islanders have a game in hand. 30 games left. Still a lot of hockey to be played. Line 3 we go. It's Mike in East Deer. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Bob. How you doing this evening?
Oh, great. What's up?
Hey, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what happened over this evening and the last 17 years.
Okay.
Let's call it what it is. You know, Chuck Noll and the Pittsburgh Steelers of the 70s, 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, unprecedented. Vince Lombardi and Bart Starr, very similar type of situation in the 60s. But you really have to give credit where credit is due. And the New England Patriots, and specifically Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, along with Kraft and his entourage, his coaching staff and scouts, they have figured it out. And the idea that they could put together this type of a run, we all need to be very respectful. And we're watching something that will not happen, I think, again in NFL history.
I agree with you, and I think that's how I look at it. I choose to be positive about this. You know, I mean, that's how, quite frankly, I choose to live my life. But a lot of people want to get downright negative with all. And you can say what you want. There is established cheating going on with the Spygate, with the Deflategate to some degree there, and I'm still not sure of that conclusion. But still, they've been able to put together a run that's been unprecedented over the course of 17 years. So I give them credit for that, and they do it. And this year, I think, is sweeter. A lot of those guys commented about being sweeter, mostly because they don't have a lot of, you know, really outstanding name players on that team. Yeah, Gronk, yeah, Brady, those usual. But they do it with a lot of other guys stepping up in big positions. And they cover, they get after it. Their offensive line, even though it's not recognized until now after you go through this postseason as one of the better ones in the game, it's very steady, but it's a bunch of guys who just work well together. And they figure out how to game plan and block. They use fullbacks. They do a lot of great stuff. And their run game was as good as it's been in the last several years, especially in this postseason. When you didn't expect it, you expected Brady to carry them. It was carried by their run game mostly. We're going to take a break, come back with more. 412-575-2600 right here live on Pittsburgh CW.